G'day everyone and welcome back to Educational Currency. I'm Chris Kalodikis.
I'm Robert Namoski.
Okay, and look, today we're actually going to address, I think, one of the hottest topics in education, probably not even just in education, probably like in any part of the workforce, employment, everywhere. It's changing our lives. It's very disruptive. Artificial intelligence. Rob, tell me about artificial intelligence.
It's I and an A.
I don't think in that order either.
No, A and an I, coming from a mathematician. AI, okay. Like we said, it's revolutionizing things in a positive and obviously a negative way. Yeah. Nothing is ever just positive. No. And this is what we're going to go through today.
Yeah.
With an actual person who's quite knowledgeable in it, Chris.
I wouldn't say quite knowledgeable, but I have been looking at it in the educational spectrum. And look, at first there's always that initial fear, I think, too. Like, obviously ChatGPT came out beginning of last year, and at first I think people were skeptical, but OpenAI were very smart. They put out, it's out there for free. You can use it, all right? It works to their advantage because the way AI works is that it has knowledge bases, okay? Databases made up of information of a whole variety of areas, and then also has these things known as neural networks, so that the actual information within the database can make connections, right? So that's how the computer does its thinking. It's connecting concepts and developing its own understanding. And then based on people using it through a free trial, okay, it's adding to that knowledge base. What do people want? And it's learning through users' input. So the fact that it's free, yep, it's great, we're getting to learn it, but also it's adding to their data that they have on their system. So it's crazy stuff, Rob.
Do you think it will revolutionize things as much as the internet, or?
To be honest, yes.
Yes.
Okay, look, maybe I'm crazy in saying that. Obviously, there was an industrial revolution centuries ago. Okay, and machinery came to the workplaces and it changed the way we work. Okay, in relation to industry, as you just alluded to, the internet came along, and that's considered industry 2.0. All right, that the internet changed the way that global markets work. We can now, our business have a front online and buy and sell products through the internet. So that was the new industry. AI now is this artificial intelligence that works for us. It's like having workers for us, people giving us their feedback, their ideas, but it's a computer program doing that. This is revolutionary. It is going to change industries. And I know that does create some fear in pockets of the employment force. In all of them, are our jobs safe? We don't know.
But any new technology does. When you look at that, anything that was first introduced, you have that fear factor, the unknown. So here's the thing. What are your concerns about the unknown with AI?
Well, look, straight away, it's disruptive. It's come in. I don't think any of us were quite ready for it. And not just that we weren't ready for it, because we've known about the idea of AI for a long time. Yes. But it's like we just weren't ready for a version to come out of that was so good. Like, it actually helps. It's very effective. It helps you find content, do research, produce images, like all within, just typing in prompts into it. So I think that in itself, that will caught off guard. And then it's kind of like we're behind the eight ball, especially in my context of education, as is yours. Where are we going? And we can't kind of predict that yet, but we know that we've got to get ready for an educational field. Well, we've got to include AI. If we're not including AI, we are not preparing our students who are going to be out in the workforce, whether in year 7 or year 12, 6 to 10 years, and they're going to be in this AI workforce. So I think that would be my biggest concern, is that we're not quite sure which way it's going to go. We've got hints of it. We've been caught by surprise, but where does it go? What do you think, Rob? You don't have the experience that I had to do with AI. But from your standpoint, what are you thinking in your head?
I'm cautious with it, as with everything else. Everything has its positives, everything has its negatives. So from my perspective, yes, it will flood the market, and let's see what happens. Let's see what the positives are, and as a teacher, bring them into the classroom. Yeah. And then obviously we have to put fail-safe things in there to protect us from the negatives, as we did with mobile phone policies now in schools, where students are no longer allowed to have their mobile phones on them, or if they're on them, they have to be in their bags. I think the state premier said mobile phones are illegal in actual public schools. So there was a real positive thing with being able to contact your kid at a school, having a mobile phone, but then come the negative of that, decreased in social interactions, etc. So this is the thing I'm looking at seeing with what will happen with AI. What will be the positive things that will benefit society? But technology is never a one-way streak of positivity. There always will be a consequence that we just got to really watch out for. From your perspective, what's the one thing that you are watching out for?
Look, with current school at the moment,
Yeah.
my biggest concern is plagiarism with it. Okay, from my context, I'm preparing students, especially my senior students, for their HSC. They're submitting assignments, they're building up marks. They're handing in and submitting tasks to me. So my initial concern is students are either getting very dependent on AI, and then the responses they're giving me, are they more my students' response, or are they more the AI's response? And is my student then learning and preparing, or are they really cheating themselves? Now, there is contingencies in place. I have learned that I can take a bulk of text from a response that a student gives me, put it into AI and ask it, do you believe this is AI generated? And it will give you a response.
So, Chris, AI helps you identify AI work.
Yeah, it does. Okay, so that's one
interesting
big
for the kids that are watching.
Okay, it does. But then again, I've got a niece who's at university and she's aware of that. And apparently there's another AI tool that can help you hide AI created stuff. So it is this cycle. And so that's why at this point, my biggest concern is plagiarism. But that's just me talking as an educator. Obviously, on the more wider of society thing, there is a thing of now the changing nature of work with jobs. And certain jobs might struggle now, or they've got to really learn some new skills in that area. And I know one particular job area that it's been tough for young people is those who've studied graphic design. And some people even had jobs lined up, and then suddenly they're getting knocked back now, like, oh, we should be right now. We've got some AI tools that can do drafts. And so there is a more broader consequences, but in education, probably plagiarism.
But Chris, is AI that creative? Because graphic design requires a certain creativity.
It does.
It does?
It does. Look, it is impressive. Look, it all comes down to the prompts. And I know for those who've experienced AI, you can type in prompts and it will give you text-based responses. When it comes to creating images, you write in a prompt and saying what you'd like it to look like, and it'll create the image. You can talk about scenario, artistic style, who you want in the picture, and it'll create the image. But then after it's created the image, you can then say changes you want to the image. So it's always like an ongoing conversation, and it will tweak and tweak and tweak the image. And it makes some really cool photos. Okay, so to the point where like it's the person doing the drafts for you, as opposed to the graphic designer who might be doing the drafts for you, and then you get a good final product. So at the point though of now, the graphic designer is definitely better. You can't beat the human.
That's right.
You can't beat the human, but it is more cost effective. Okay, in that aspect, but never can you replace the skills of human. Sometimes I get a bit too excited talking about AI, but yes,
no,
that is the valid point. Okay.
So, in other words, it could take over the jobs of some people, but with the convenience comes a certain amount of laziness.
Yes.
And with laziness comes a decrease in intelligence.
Yes.
On a human part, where do you think it would hit the most?
Look, you've highlighted a really good point. And look, and I've even been seeing this in the context of schools too. If we start becoming too dependent on it, it will affect our intelligence. It'll affect our critical thinking. Because instead of us trying to think of how to solve a problem, our first step will be, oh, what does the AI say? And then, oh yeah, that's all right, that'll do, bang, that's the way to do it. So yeah, I think that is a very big part to address. Look, and even in schools, there are other areas that there are concerning with AI too that should be highlighted too. Like, as said, these knowledge bases are collecting our data. So every time a young person puts in a prompt, and who knows, they might be using a mainstream form of AI, they might not be. They're entering data into the system that is recording their information. So data privacy is a concern with AI. The other aspect in schools that is a concern is I have ChatGPT and I've got the paid one. And there could be students out there that have it, and there could be students out there that don't. So then suddenly AI becomes an equity issue. Some people have it, some people don't. Is that fair? How do we make sure people are getting fair access to the resources that are available in our educational spectrum? So that's concerning. Okay, and then the other one too is obviously the ethical implications of it. Okay, who is doing the work? And we've really got to teach our students responsible use. that they are using it ethically, because we are dealing with young people, we are dealing with teenagers. What things are they going to look up? And look, there have been instances of AI early in its development where people are looking up how to do things that are unethical or illegal. And the AI, unless it has parameters put into it, it was looking that up. Now, in the more mainstream ones now, they've got safeguards in there to avoid those types of questions for our young people. But yeah, that is a concern too. So there are quite a number of concerns for young people.
But those concerns were the same as with the internet.
Yeah, they were.
Very similar concerns with the internet. You've got all this information at your fingertips.
Yeah.
And let's say if you wanted to, disrupt society in a certain way or do something horrific, well, the information was there on the dark web and etc.
Yes.
So, but what would be the actual considerable difference with AI?
With the internet, you can type in a question into a search engine and it will take you to a page of indexed results. It's already looked up its results for possible outcomes to your query. And you get a series of web pages that have been created that may or may not be relevant to what your query was. Okay, depending how obscure your query is, whatever. Okay, and then you'd have to research. You still have to look through the web pages as if you were researching through books. AI is more of a conversation. So I ask the AI a question, it will give me a responses based on its data sources. If I'm not sure about its response, I can ask it further questions and it could give me some data sources. It can search the search engines as well. Okay, that's a part of the advanced features of AI too, and do its own research on the topic. And then I can ask it to clarify points. And even things with my prompts too, it can have other types of plugins that can create diagrams for me and illustrate things. So it's a conversation.
Yeah, Chris, from a non-computer person, just sounds like an advanced search engine.
That is really simplifying it down. It's not an advanced search engine because, like I said, you're not just getting a stock response. You're getting a response that is very specific to your question and your question style. Like even the way you ask the question, which is what they refer to as prompting, you could tell the AI to respond as if I'm a 5-year-old, really explain it really basic. You could tell the AI to respond in a format where it's a university professor and it's giving very sophisticated responses. In the educational context, it's actually great for the diversification of education and addressing students with special needs, because you can actually take a bulk of text, whether from an online source or from a PDF, and you could say, direct this same extracted text, but modify it so it'd be easier for someone with a specific learning level to understand, and it will transform that information. Like, it's another level, Rob. It's not just this another level.
I'm asking questions from a complete layman.
Yes.
Will that make us better teachers? Lazier teachers? What do you think?
Look, I think it depends what type of teacher you are. I think many teachers out there are very motivated, and I think they're going to rise to the challenge of AI. I think they're going to find a way that they accept AI used at their schools. They're going to find a way that AI is used to support their students, because at the end of the day, the students are going to a world where AI is going to be a part of it. We didn't have this barrier going in when we entered the workforce. Our students, they are going to have that. So from a teacher's perspective, I think they're going to take on the challenge, because our intrinsic motivator is always the students. We want what's best for them. The worst thing a teacher could do is demonize AI.
Yeah, because like Chris, like you said before, we have to accept the fact. We have to prepare them for the workplace.
Yeah, that's it.
This is, like it or not, it is a look into the future.
Yeah, it's a look into the future, and we're only at the beginning. We are only at this initial point. Like I said, we're caught off guard. The way that AI is going to, and the other technology that's kind of marrying with it. Actually, I should say two technologies that are working with it. One is robotics. Yes. Robotics is gone. Obviously, drone technology is taking off. Yes. Self-driving cars are on the horizon too. So you can kind of see certain other areas where those technologies used in conjunction with AI, suddenly more jobs potentially disappear or more jobs get created in programming behind the scenes.
Or Chris, we can really take it out there and we will be fighting Cybernet.
We're fighting Cybernet. Big hint, be polite to the AI. Voice it, please. Thank you. That was a great idea. Because when it takes over,
I'm ready. I've been waiting for this.
You'll be right. You'll be my Arnold Schwarzenegger. You got to look after me. I got to protect me. Okay, come with me if you want to live. Okay, but that's one, the robotics side, like you said.
Yeah, like you said, if you're marrying robotics with AI,
It's yeah, it starts getting, yeah.
Naturally, that's the first question as humans.
Yeah.
Will we be replaced? Won't be the dominant species anymore.
It is. You know, we'll see.
Pick your movie. Terminator, Matrix.
It's true. Like there are a lot of science fiction movies out there. Like even the movie Her, you know, that with Joaquin Phoenix in it. You know, and he gets an AI, and you know he forms a relationship with it eventually. You know, like who knows where we're going with this? Okay, but the other technology as well that's also wouldn't even say on the horizon is actually finding here virtual reality. Okay, and virtual reality marrying with AI, where we are in. You put the goggles on. Okay, I'm in here. But I think I'm in Ibiza, okay, or I think I'm on the Greek islands when I've got my headset on. And then there are people there, and there could be people from the other side of the world wearing the headsets as well, or there could be AI people in the game, and I'm interacting with them. That's my holiday. I can't afford to go to Ibiza or Greece right now. I can afford a headset, okay? So the world is changing, Rob. And like I said...
Now we've moved on to Total Recall. With Arnold again.
Was he dreaming or was it real?
Good question.
That's a good question. That could be another podcast.
Discussing Arnold, Total Recall with AI.
Yeah. So,
what is your, from a social perspective with society, what do you fear with AI?
Look, and probably this comes back to some of the features that concern people with gaming. You know, there can be addiction, okay, and over-reliance on it. And where we start to move away from interacting with people in the workplace, because I'm not sure about something at school, I'd go to my peer, I'd go to you and ask for advice. Instead, now my first step is, okay, what does AI tell me to do? So I guess that's the fear, that kind of anti-socialness that could come from it. Okay, and then actually a point that you highlighted before, over-dependency. If we get over-dependent with AI, are we then starting to lose faith in our own intelligence and to our detriment, to our students' detriment? So I guess they would be my concerns. Would that be something you're kind of feeling too right now, Rob?
Yeah, my concern is technology is great, but it does remove a certain level of intelligence that you would need before that technology.
Yeah.
And you could look at that when biggest example is people turn around and go, oh, people 2,000-3,000 years ago, they weren't as intelligent. You'd never be able to survive in their societies. They needed a vast array of intelligence to actually survive, whereas our intelligence, what we call intelligence, is very specific and centralized. So it's a question of, well, will it progress society, the parts of it, but then there will be dangerous parts that you have to be very careful of. And my perspective is there will be a generation that will suffer from it. And as humans, we all learn from that generation that suffers to better it. So the problem is, will we be that generation or will our kids be that generation? Because that's how we've moved forward previously. There's always that one generation where you realize, okay, maybe giving smoking out, prescribing smoking for stress wasn't a good idea.
Yeah.
And there's that one generation that copies it. There's a reason why Queen Elizabeth was queen for 70 years. I mean, her dad died of smoking.
Yeah.
And that was his generation. And then we realized, okay, maybe, tobacco isn't such a good idea. So with AI, that's my biggest fear. Will it be our generation? Will it be our kids? So how do we protect them from that? And what are the warning signs? What do we have to be careful of? Well, like you mentioned before, Chris, social interactions, socializing. Now, if the telephone and the smartphone, what we call smart, didn't really make us smarter, but as we saw at school, it stopped kids from interacting in the playground. Basketball, all of a sudden, the basketball courts became a little bit more empty. Kids are sitting there staring into their phones, not really communicating with each other. I had a funny incident years ago with my relatives. I texted my niece sitting across the couch, "Can you get me an orange juice?" And she brought it. And it was, wow, okay, this is a
slave man come.
No, she's a very respectful girl, love her to death. But this was a thing of her generation. Now, her generation didn't quite cop it the way AI would.
Yeah.
But here's the thing that concerns me. Sure, as humans, we are very adaptive. AI will not make us extinct. But I do believe there will be a generation that will be made an example of, where we will look and go, okay, maybe certain elements of it were not a good idea. And the whole idea is to somehow predict or forecast that upfront so you can avoid that.
Yeah.
And this is what worries me with AI. The technological advances are great, fantastic, really looking forward to them. But nothing ever that was given in technology has always been positive. Don't get me wrong, you can't imagine life without electricity.
No.
But then all of a sudden, because people aren't sleeping, right, you could say the increase of Alzheimer's, etc., has been proven, as we'll look at our topic of sleep, etc. So this is my biggest concern with AI, to try and have what measures of prediction can we put in place to foresee that. And this is something people in your field will need to look at and discuss.
Look, you're right. Look, you actually brought up, that's really true. If it came down to who's going to be more impacted if we don't kind of get on top of this and factor it in, I think it will be our kids, because we don't know what they're kind of heading to. And I think it's also the reason why in the field of education, we need to be on top of it. If we don't embrace it and teach, I said, the ethical use, children will be impacted as they become young adults and go into the workplace or go for jobs. If they're not educated in it, they could set themselves up, or at least not build the confidence in their own intelligence to go into the world and be prepared for it. And so I think there's a bigger responsibility on educators. And although I'm in the ICT field, we all have to have a bit of knowledge of it, of how it's used, to embrace it, but also to make young people wary of it. And you're right, technology has shown that initial stages is a bit of a roller coaster, isn't it?
Yeah,
Some
always.
things are great, but then certain things that we don't see coming, can be detrimental. And generations can suffer because of that.
Yeah, Chris, I believe AI will be a positive thing.
Yeah.
But like I said before, have to have those checks and balances in place so we do not make an example of one generation that do suffer because of it. And don't get me wrong, as humans, we will adapt.
Yeah.
There is no problem with this. It's just a biggest concern for us as teachers, being the educators, of protecting our kids as well as getting them educated and getting them ready for a changing new world, Chris.
I tell you what, you'd be thankful that we got behavioural issues in class, because if all kids were perfect, the AI would take our jobs too. So be thankful for that kid that misbehaves in your class. AI can't deal with them. We can.
That's right.
So be proud of what you do, all right?
So, Chris, AI will never replace...
Won't replace that, okay?
We are not being replaced by AI as teachers, so we're safe.
Even if the robots come, they'll take the batteries out, mate.
We'll be done. We'll be done.
I think that's enough AI today, okay? So, look, hopefully that was informative to you. And, and with what's going, it is a bit of a watch this space, isn't it, Rob?
Yeah. I think we'll have many more other podcast topics specific to AI.
Yeah, and as it evolves, okay? So thanks for listening today, guys. I'm Chris Galadikis.
I'm Robin Namoski. Thank you.
Cheers.